Hello and welcome into Outreach Radio Chicago, friends. I am your host, Mike Mercado, and thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Please be interactive with the show. We're on Facebook, so give us a like at Outreach Radio Chicago. I'm on Twitter, so give me a tweet at mmercado2333. And if you've missed any past show, we're on YouTube, YouTube/Mike Mercado2333. And on today's show, we have a very, very special guest. It is our honor to have the world-famous Keith Code from drugfreeworld.org joining us today, giving us some really good information. Keith is world-famous bike instructor. He used to race professionally, and he is helping out Drug Free World with some great booklets. As an international ambassador for the Foundation for a Drug-Free World, Code is distributing free copies of Truth About Drugs, a fact-filled booklet discussing the short-term and long-term effects of 9 drugs that kids are most likely to be exposed to in their schools and neighborhoods. We're talking about everything from marijuana to prescription pills. It's going to be a great conversation, very informative. He's a really good guy, talks very family-oriented, goal-driven, so it's something that we all should be listening to if in today's world where everything's so accessible. And that's the theme of this show, accessibility and knowledge and getting the right information to make sure that you make an educated decision and you're making educated, conversations with your children. So Keith Code is going to join us from drugfreeworld.org. Their number is 1-888-NO-2-DRUGS. That's 1-888-668-6378. And if you want to visit their website, they're at drugfreeworld.org. And for any families or parents requiring immediate professional assistance or intervention, please call 1-877-947-5900. We got a lot to get to here on Outreach Radio Chicago. Follow us on Twitter. We're at mmercado2333. Like us on Facebook and stay interactive at Outreach Radio Chicago. And if you missed any show, please visit us on YouTube at Outreach Radio Chicago. Keith Code joins us next here on Outreach Radio Chicago with Mike Mercado. Thank you for keeping it tuned in to Outreach Radio Chicago with Mike Mercado. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter. We're at mmercado2333. And like our page on Facebook at Outreach Radio Chicago. Make sure you do so because we have great interviews like what we're going to do right now. And you know it's a great interview when your guest has an acronym of being the best at what he does. And that is exactly what we have here today. Joining us here on Outreach Radio Chicago is Keith Code. Keith, thank you for joining us, buddy. How are you?
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me on. Great to be back in Chicago.
Well, we miss you. You picked the perfect time with the great weather we're finally having.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's been hot out here. I'm actually in Los Angeles, but yeah, I'm happy. Chicago can be pretty brutal, but I'm happy for you.
Yeah, just wait. Yeah, talk about brutal. Just wait till the summer, right?
Yeah.
All right, Keith. Well, you know what? I gave an introduction about you and all the great work that you've done in the beginning of the show, but just for our listeners, so they kind of get to know you, do the Google search and all that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and all the great work you've done since, what, the 70s of absolutely dominating in your field?
Well, yeah, I got interested in motorcycle racing as a teenager myself. I'm actually from Pennsylvania, and I started racing when I was 16, and that was that was 1961.
Very nice.
And so there were the 60s staring me in the face.
Mm-hmm.
I raced for a couple of years, and then my hair got long. And I started doing what everybody else was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Got into drugs, and it pretty well dashed that whole thing. It was, just like drugs do. They really make you forget who you are and what you love and so on. So it wasn't until the 70s, and I moved back out to California, got out of the drugs, and got back into motorcycles and back into motorcycle racing, and became a professional, raced superbike here in America for about 5 seasons. And then when it was, time to retire, I wanted to continue on with motorcycles because I love them. And so I started the California Superbike School, and now we're operating in, we have operated in 19 countries all around the world.
Wow.
We just got back from China, Taiwan. We'll be going back to Taiwan and the Philippines and Australia here later this year, and it's been a real kind of a rocket ride. And along the road, I've written 3 books, and they've been translated into 9 languages.
Nice.
And this is with a guy that just sort of barely squeaked out of high school. So it not only surprised my mom, but it really surprised me too.
Hey, there you go. That's a good surprise to have, right?
Yeah, but the whole thing was about motorcycles back then. And when I got back into racing, I saw that there were other kids who were destined for the same fate that I was, and that was getting into drugs. And so, really, for years and years and years, I was looking for some kind of solution, some kind of education, something to help other people. And I ran into the Foundation for a Drug-Free World and their Truth About Drugs materials, and I went, okay, this is the real deal here. This is the stuff that really lets people know what drugs are all about. And then I became the ambassador for them. And,
yeah.
And here I am talking to you.
No, and that's you're a professional at this. That's a great segue. It's actually drugfreeworld.org. You can call 1-888-NO-TO-DRUGS. That's 1-888-668-6378. And one of the big reasons that I was really interested in this is somebody who rose so far into their career and their passion like yourself. And it all came because you kind of saw this clarity and what you needed to do and what your goals were. And in today's day and age where everything's so accessible, how does a foundation like this really dig into trying to get a drug-free world? Because it's just so easy nowadays. And you being a personal story where you said, look, you do this the right way and you could succeed. You talk about a rocket ship to the top. I mean, this is it, right?
Yeah, well hang on a second.
Go for it. No worries.
Got some electronic noises going on.
It's a good time party here on Outreach Radio.
Oh, my God. Turn your volume down. Whoa. That's my son.
No worries. Hey, it's a family show.
He was trying to get me on Skype.
Oh.
He works with me really close.
Hey, that's cool. Hey, you know what? That's a good son who wants to talk to his dad.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
There you go.
Great job. Yeah, he does a great job. He never got into drugs. He was able to. Well, here's the deal.
Mm-hmm.
We know that putting people in jail it doesn't solve the drug situation.
Mm-hmm.
We know that drugs are very available, as you pointed out. Mm-hmm. We know that states are legalizing them, like Colorado. Now Colorado's having a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, the school teachers are having a big problem. So, what we've seen in the 22 languages that we have these booklets, the Truth About Drugs booklets printed in every case when we are able to get them distributed into the area, or with individuals or with the family, that we have seen that education showing the person what they're actually getting into. And that's what the booklets are all about. What is the drug? What does the drug do? What are the long-term and short-term physical and mental effects? And the best we can do is provide the information so the person can make an informed, intelligent decision about it if they're in that position, if they are bright enough to do it. Even with people who have already started taking drugs, we've had fantastic success with the booklets. So we are making a dent in it. We have seen big changes in areas all over the world, and I think that the pointy end of the stick for the Foundation for a Drug-Free World is education, and we feel and know that it is the only way out.
Now, see, this is very interesting because when we were talking about the accessibility and trying to teach people the right information they need to know, because there's a lot of, you go on the internet and, just because it's on the internet, it means it's true. We all know that fact. So I feel like there's a lot of misinformation going out there. So you were talking about the schools having a problem. What are some issues that teachers are facing? Because I think we all kind of like to go with our liberal mentality of things like, yeah, you know what, let's move forward, let's be progressive. But that I almost feel is, I've never even thought of that situation. At what are teachers and people who have to deal with, again, the easy accessibility are dealing with on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw a few interviews just yesterday, actually, from some high school teachers in Colorado, and basically what they said is, what's happening with the accessibility now that marijuana has become legalized is that the kids don't care anymore, that they've lost interest in the school. They talk about, going up in the mountains and getting high and how high they were, and their lives are really redirected into that drug where they have shifts in allegiance. Their friends that they grew up with are, if they're not doing the marijuana, then they go off and they find, birds of a feather flock together, and it's becoming a serious problem for the teachers because, if you get high, you're sitting there and you're in a daze.
Right.
It may be a pleasant daze for the person who took the marijuana, but as far as a teacher goes in any kind of an educational environment, it doesn't work.
Right. It's another distraction.
They are seeing, they're having a very, very difficult time. Now, whether this is going to taper off or not, I don't know. We do know that prohibition didn't work very well back in the 1920s with alcohol. It did everything but work. The number of bars and speakeasies in Boston, in New York, in Chicago, in Los Angeles doubled and tripled once prohibition came in. So, people have that little edge, but where they like to do something that's a bit on the naughty side. But once again, the booklets. By the way, there are 13 booklets, and the booklets are cover so many different areas of drugs. We've got one on marijuana, we've got one on alcohol, one on ecstasy, cocaine, crack, crystal meth, all the inhalants, and especially the prescription drugs, which is the real scourge of what's happening in America and around the world right now. Are the ones that are seen to be by people or perceived to be less dangerous than street drugs. But that is absolutely not true, and it's caused a pretty big uproar as far as, fatalities. Take a look at fatalities. 3 years ago, there were over 46,000 fatalities, overdose fatalities from prescription drugs, but people see them as being not as dangerous as street drugs, but they're worse, really.
Now, it's interesting because you can find all the booklet information at drugfreeworld.org. You could dial 1-888-No2Drugs. That's 1-888-668-6378. And you bring up a very interesting point because we were talking about high school students in more particular, but let's move on a little bit bigger than that. College students and these prescription pills. Is it something that you guys have taken a notice of specifically that, maybe the attention has always been on these certain ones and we've been ignoring these other ones? Is that kind of a stand that you guys are trying to, or a road you guys are going down as well?
Yeah, that's true, for sure. Heroin gets a big play. Marijuana certainly gets a big play, and crystal meth. Everybody knows that crystal meth is just about as deadly as pointing a gun at your head and pulling the trigger.
Right.
but what they don't, again, the perception, the misinformation, and that's why the booklets are called The Truth About Drugs, because the misinformation out there and just the misperception that prescription drugs are less dangerous is, well, that's the dangerous part of it right there. And I mean, you realize, when I said over 46,000 overdose fatalities in 1 year in America, that's more than all the people who died in all the automobile crashes in America with our 325 million people.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's completely unbelievable. And, the big problem we have, Mike, is that the society is delivering a mixed message to everybody at this time. You see television ads. If you're having a bad day, you just talk to your doctor about this particular drug.
Making it easy.
And everything's going to be okay. Mama's little helper is going to be there. Is going to be there to sort you out. And we're there are over 4 million school children in America who are on Ritalin. Ritalin is classified by the FDA in the same class as morphine and cocaine. And parents get talked into putting their kids on these drugs for what many have called as fictitious disease or the mental condition of ADD and ADHD. And in fact, the guy who originated those words claimed on his deathbed that it was actually a farce. There's no physical evidence, no scientific proof that those things exist at all. But nevertheless, we put over 4 million school children on those drugs, and they're dangerous.
And that has a lot to do with misinformation and money.
Absolutely. Well, the big pharma's gotten in there. They give the drugs. I don't know if we have to get into that.
that's its own show.
The psychiatric industry is distributing drugs like there's no tomorrow, and it's all about the money. It absolutely is all about the money, and they're very, very rich and they're very powerful, the pharmaceutical companies for sure, and it gets into everybody's home. And for kids, finding prescription drugs is no more difficult than going into the medicine cabinet.
Yeah.
Quite often in the house, and then grabbing a handful of whatever it is that somebody's taking and trying it out.
And that has to go into people not being informed, people not paying attention to something that literally is right in front of you, and almost you never would guess. But now it's just I think it's been the theme of this show. It's easy accessibility.
Right, and thousands of years of history tell us that drugs will never be the answer to any of these situations, to whatever it is the person is having a problem with. Now, parents, we know, from our extensive surveys, we have in the high schools in America, over 50% of all the kids in American schools are going to try drugs before they get out of high school.
Wow.
And so, essentially, each parent has a 50-50 shot of their kid trying and getting into drugs. So one of the most effective ways that we have seen with the booklets is for parents to grab the booklets, just get the basic booklet, which talks about drugs in general. And it's such a great way to open up an intelligent conversation with somebody who's even as young as 8 or 10 years old, really. If the kid's pretty bright, and certainly teenagers, and that's been one of the really, really effective things we've seen on a one-on-one basis. And we have lots and lots of great success stories with the booklets working out, and giving the person enough information so that they just didn't take the drugs.
No, I agree. Keith Code is joining us today. He is the ambassador for drugfreeworld.org, and he's also the author of 3 books, A Twist of the Wrist, Volume 1 and 2, and Soft Science of Road Racing Motorcycles. And I think you hit it so perfectly. It's give these kids credit. Give them the information. Tell them, give them the resources. Tell them this is what it is. This is real life. This is what can happen. These are the consequences. And I think you guys do it so poetically. Now, before I let you go, because you've been awesome, unbelievable with your time. I mean, the world famous Keith Code is giving us a few minutes of his time, and we really appreciated that. But 2 things. One, for anybody who's been a user and they need help, they need suggestions in how to get back onto that straight and narrow, what would you just suggest then? And then please, if you could please plug what you guys do out on the West Coast with your school and some other big things that you guys are doing.
We have a number that is for people who need immediate assistance, and you've caught me with my pants down because I don't have it right in front of me.
For parents and families requiring immediate professional assistance or intervention, call 1-877-947-5900. That's 1-877-947-5900.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Mike. You saved my baby.
No problem.
Well, yes, that and one of the things that we did about when the Foundation for a Drug-Free World started and they started distributing the Truth About Drugs materials, is we connected up with Narconon, which has become the world's most effective drug rehab program by leaps and bounds. I mean, it's head and shoulders above everything else. And one of the reasons is that it was discovered long ago that drug residues do remain in the body long after the drug has been taken. And it's one of the real difficulties that people have in getting off the drugs to begin with, because those small amounts that stay in the body will mobilize again later on and, kind of give you a lick of the ice cream cone again. You get a little tiny bit of the buzz off of it without even knowing where the urge came from. And you tried to get off, you didn't do any drugs, you were doing a really, really good job, and all of a sudden you have this sort of strange urge. And so the Narconon program has been fantastic, and Narconons are opening up all over the world, and for sure it is the single most effective program. So, and anybody can go on narconon.org and check that out too. It's a fantastic program, and that's why the Foundation for a Drug-Free World backs them up.
That's awesome. Keith, I can't thank you enough for joining us here on Outreach Radio Chicago. All right, so here are all the information for you guys, okay? The Truth About Drugs. You can get all the information kits, the DVD, at www.drugfreeworld.org or call 1-888-NO-TO-DRUGS. That's 1-888-668-6378. And if you are family, parents, anybody who needs help with intervention or questions, immediate professional assistance, 1-877-947-5900. And Keith, the toll-free for your school is 800-530-3350?
Oh, yeah, okay, sure. California Superbike School. It's superbikeschool.com is where our website is, and you can see all the places we go and what we do.
Love it. Keith, thank you so much for joining us here on Outreach Radio Chicago. Please take care and have some fun for us over on the West Coast.
Thank you very much, Mike. I really appreciate you having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We can't wait to have you on again, buddy.
Okay, well, thank you.
No problem. We'll be right back with Outreach Radio Chicago. And that'll do it for us here on Outreach Radio Chicago. A big thank you to our guest, Keith Code. Please visit the website at drugfreeworld.org or call 1-888-NO-TO-DRUGS. That's 1-888-668-6378 or dial 1-877-947-5900 for immediate help for families who need professional assistance. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at mmercado2333. If you've missed any past show, you can watch them all on YouTube at YouTube/Mike Mercado 2333. Or if you want to stay interactive with us in between shows, like us on Facebook at Outreach Radio Chicago. Another thank you to our special guest, Keith Code. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. For everyone here at Outreach Radio Chicago, I'm Mike Mercado. Take us home, Hav.